This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. If researchers want to know what happened on a particular day, they often look at newspapers from that day. But what would happen if newspapers stopped publishing? Future researchers would likely turn to the web. The Wayback Machine at archive.org has for years archived websites, but it only does this once a day for news sites and even less often for other websites. 29-year-old reporter Ben Welsh decided to create a site similar to archive.org, but he wanted to archive only news sites, and he wanted to save their home pages more often. Ben Welsh works for the Los Angeles Times. In May, he created pastpages.org. His website saves the home pages of 70 news websites from around the world once an hour. Ben Welsh says this schedule of what he calls harvesting is important in today's quickly changing news environment. Over the course of a day, the narrative arc of a news story can develop quite a bit, he says. He says no one had ever saved the home pages of so many news sites so often and made that material available to the public. He hopes to keep adding to the site until it is archiving material from up to 300 sites. Ben Welsh spends about $60 a month on storage space for pastpages.org. He feared the cost would increase beyond what he could afford, so he asked people for help through Kickstarter. People use that website to seek money for creative projects. Within about a week, he had gotten all of the $5,000 he had asked for, and more. Ben Welsh says he will use the money to expand his website. He hopes to build some features specifically targeted to media researchers and media critics. Stephanie Bluestein was a reporter at the Los Angeles Times. She is now an assistant professor of journalism at California State University, Northridge. She believes pastpages.org will prove to be a valuable resource. Now you could look hour by hour and see the placement of the lead story, how the headline changed, and how different newspapers played the story. Now you can actually compare, she says. Professor Bluestein says news today changes so quickly, even archiving once an hour may soon not be enough. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. To learn English and get more technology news, go to voaspecialenglish.com. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Nearly 1.5 billion people, mainly in Asia and Africa, were living without electricity in 2009. That latest count from the International Energy Agency was an improvement. In Asia, 3 out of 4 people in developing countries had electricity in rural areas. So did almost everyone in cities. But in Africa, the rate was less than 70% in cities and just 1/4 of the people in rural areas. There are many efforts to find low-cost ways to light homes. One idea is a water bulb. This system has recently been used to brighten more than 100 homes in the Korokocho settlement in Nairobi, Kenya. These included the home of Medina Musin's family. Members of a youth group installed the water bulb. First, they filled a 2-liter plastic bottle with water and a little bleach. Next, they cut a hole in the metal roof. They pressed the bottle halfway into the hole. Then they used silicone caulk to seal around it to prevent rain from coming in. In no time, the home was lit with about 50 to 60 watts worth of light. The combination of water and bleach refracts light from the sun and a full moon. The bleach keeps the water clear. Medina Musin, like many of her neighbors, was spending a lot of kerosene to light her home. Now, she says she will save almost half of her weekly income. Her son Abbas can now read a book at home in the middle of the day. Veronica Wanjiru and her 2 children also have a water bulb in their home. She says her older son had to repeat a grade in school because he could not get his homework done when their home was dark. She says, "I've seen a big difference, especially with my children's education. If they're given homework, they can finish it on time. And they don't have to wait for me to come and light the candle or go outside and do their studies outside so that they can finish their homework." In the Philippines, a nonprofit group called My Shelter Foundation has used a similar low-cost lighting solution in thousands of homes. The project is called A Liter of Light. The head of the group, Iak Diaz, says the idea is better than candles and kerosene and offers a great new use for old plastic soda bottles. It's safer, it's healthier, it's brighter, and the funny thing is, the light bulb actually comes from the place you'd least expect it, which is the trash bin. So it's the cheapest light bulb in the world. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can watch a video about the water bulb at voaspecialenglish.com. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Have you ever heard of Joseph Kony? Chances are you have at least heard about a video called Kony 2012. An American nonprofit group posted it on YouTube in early March. The half-hour video quickly went viral with tens of millions of views. The group Invisible Children created Kony 2012 to bring attention to Joseph Kony and his Lord's Resistance Army in Central Africa. In the video, Jason Russell from Invisible Children says, "For 26 years, Kony has been kidnapping children into his rebel group, the LRA, turning the girls into sex slaves and the boys into child soldiers." The group hopes the video will lead to his capture before the end of the year. Many people praise Kony 2012 for bringing attention to the issue, but others have criticized it and accused the creators of seeking financial gain. Critics say the way some of the information is presented may be misleading. Louisa Lombard is a graduate student in Duke University's Department of Cultural Anthropology. Ms. Lombard has studied conflict and policy in Africa. She says much of the information presented in the video is old. She says viewers get the impression that this is a northern Ugandan problem. In fact, she says, the LRA has not been operating in northern Uganda for years. They moved first to South Sudan, then on to the Democratic Republic of Congo and into the Central African Republic. Where they are now is debatable, Ms. Lombard says. The Ugandan government had a similar reaction to the video. In a statement, the government thanked the international community for its interest in Joseph Kony and the LRA, but it made clear that the group had not been active in Uganda since 2006. Uganda says the LRA is no longer a major threat and that the group now has less than 300 members. Paul Levinson is a professor of communication and media studies at Fordham University in New York. He says the important thing about the video is that it brings attention to Joseph Kony and the LRA. In his words, if it's slightly off in a fact or two, that's a very, very minor criticism. On March 15th, Jason Russell was hospitalized after San Diego police found him in his underwear, following reports that he had been naked and screaming in the streets. The head of Invisible Children said the filmmaker was suffering from exhaustion, dehydration, and malnutrition. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. For more technology news, for people learning English, go to voaspecialenglish.com.